Let's have some fun with some numbers. It's a special 4th of July edition of Locked On Lions.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And let's do this, everybody. Happy 4th of July. It is Locked On Lions on the Locked On Podcast Network on a Monday, July 4th and Tuesday, July 5th. Thanks for joining us, being with us as you are listening or watching right here on LockedOnLions.com, wherever you get your podcasts, and on YouTube. Matt Dery with you. What's happening, everybody? Happy July 4th. Hope everybody is doing well, staying cool. A very warm, very hot Monday in the Motor City. Coming up on the show today, let's do this. I've got so many stats and so many numbers that we're going to talk about from last season and if they will translate again to this season or not. We will do that today, coming up right here on Locked On Lions, special July 4th edition, which is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. Again, you can follow us on Twitter at Dery Speaks, D-E-R-Y Speaks, at Locked On Lions on Twitter. Also the Matt Dery Facebook fan page where your comments are welcome. And we post the podcast every day. And been about a month or so now on YouTube. Please subscribe and follow us on YouTube so you get the episodes each and every day on the video front. We are getting close to training camp. End of this month when the Lions hit the field in Allen Park at 222 Rodwood Drive to get ready for another season. And as many of you know, and we've talked about it a lot on this show, folks are into it. Folks are excited. There is a buzz around Allen Park. There's a buzz nationally about this team. I don't think anybody's out there going too crazy about playoffs or Super Bowl, but many are recognizing that this club has a chance to be more competitive this year, take the next step, and win some football games. I want to go over some stats, some numbers from last season, and talk about if that's going to happen again this year. It's a lot of numbers that I researched and looked up. Our crack research staff is off for the break, so yours truly had to do it on his own. But let's start with this one. All right, last year's schedule, we knew this, was murder. Very, very difficult to have to play the AFC North and go up against the likes of Baltimore, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, and Cincinnati. The Lions went 0-2-1, 0-3-1 against those teams. They lost to the Ravens on the Tucker kick. They lost to the Browns at the end. Bengals came in here and knocked their socks off, and they tied with the Steelers. The Lions also had to play the NFC West last year. Lost to the Rams, lost to the Niners, got blown out by Seattle, beat Arizona. So one win in that group. And now this year you look at the schedule and you go, oh, things should be a little bit easier getting to play the NFC East and having to play a team like the Giants that I think the Lions can certainly beat. Washington, I think they can beat. And then playing the AFC East and going up against the likes of the Jets, etc. All right. So last season, your Detroit Lions started the year 0-10-1. 0-10-1. Didn't win a single football game in their first 11 games. That includes the tie against the Steelers. After that, after their first 11 games, remember they're playing 17 now, the Lions finished the season at 3-3. Let's talk about this. This football team will not lose 10 of its first 11 games. That's not going to happen. As far as finishing 3-3, who knows? All right. But I want to see how this team starts first before we talk about how they finish. But I think we can safely say, with starting the year with 2 straight home games down at Ford Field, Philadelphia in the opener, where I don't think the Lions are going to play as poorly as they did a year ago against that Eagles team. I mean, Philly came in and just dominated and demolished the Lions, crushed them at the line of scrimmage and put up a 40-burger against them. And the Lions offense was brutal in that, was it 41-6 loss. Then Washington in week 2. I think the Lions are going to win one of their first 2 games. Being at home, Philly's going to be tough. I think they can beat Washington. So can they start 0-10-1 again like they did a year ago? No. That's one number I don't see happening again in 2022. All right. Over under in wins in Vegas right now from our friends at BetOnline currently sits, I'm just throwing a lot of different numbers at you today, currently sits at 6.5. We talked to Trevor Sikkema last week from PFF, and he said, bang the over. Let's go. This team should win 7-8 games. Last season, the over-under was set at, I believe, 4 for Detroit, and they finished under. They only won 3 games. Now we're sitting at 6.5. So Vegas believes with the schedule, with the improved roster, second year of the Dan Campbell regime, that this football team will at least double their win total and maybe even go over that. 6.5 wins looking at this schedule, looking at this roster, looking at the division as well. Minnesota, not saying they're starting over, but that's a rookie coach and a rookie GM. The Bears are worse than they were a year ago going into the season. The Bears are going to finish last in this division. The Lions should beat Chicago. All right, the Bears are emptying out their roster. You know, Robert Quinn might not be back. So 6.5, I would go over when you look at that number. I think Vegas is spot on with that number at 6.5 right now. And I would also say you go over. Okay. Last year, let's stay with team stats. I'm going to get you some individual ones with players in a second. Last season in Vegas, the Detroit Lions went 11-6 versus the spread. Meaning, for those of you that don't know, there is gambling in the NFL. Oh, okay? And anytime the Lions were an underdog, which I believe was every game last year, the Lions covered the spread 11 out of 17 games. I don't think that number is going to be the same this year. I think the Lions are going to be less of an underdog in their games this year, and heck, could even be a favorite in a few of their games. Carolina, possibly. Giants, Jets, Bears, Washington. The Lions will be favored. The Lions were underdogs, I believe, and I should have looked this up, but I didn't. The Lions, I believe, were underdogs in every game last year. They were supposed to lose, yet Pittsburgh, 9-10 point favorite. Lions lost by 3. Cleveland, 5-6 point favorite. Lions lost by 3. Baltimore, big favorite over the Lions, 7, 8, 9 points, I believe. Lions lost 17-16 on a Justin Tucker miraculous field goal. They covered a lot of the games. I don't believe this season against the number, the Lions will be better than they were a year ago, which is 11-6. That's remarkable. That means they played in a lot of close games. And that means they surprised many of you with how close they kept it in those games. Will they go 11-6 again versus the spread this year? I highly doubt it. Highly doubt it. All right, more numbers coming up next. BetOnline.net, though. First, let's talk about them. They're your number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including Major League Baseball. And soon, we're going to have preseason football coming up. This is fantastic. You like golf, you're into MMA, boxing, and golf, and all of that, they've got that for you. Wimbledon going on right now. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. You want to bet on tonight's Tigers game? Are they going to sweep my Guardians, who played awful earlier today? They might. You never know. You can put that money down and get all the info you need, the spread and everything else, over under on runs at betonline.net. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and the action. BetOnline, it is where the game starts. All right, we're back on Locked On Lions. Here's to you on this July 4th, everybody. This is water. On the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day talking Detroit Lions football. Today, a little special edition on July 4th as we're going over stats from a year ago and numbers and projections for this year. We're having a little fun with it. All right, we mentioned 11-6 against the spread. Now, close games last year, in games decided by 7 points or less in 2021 in the 3-13-1 season. Your Detroit Lions finished 2-5-1. 2-5-1 in games decided by 7 points or less. That means almost half of their games last year were a touchdown or below. And the Lions finished 8 of those games with just 2 wins. 2-5-1. This year, hopefully the tide will turn. Hopefully the tables will turn on that. You almost luck yourself into some of these close game victories. Now, again, the Lions had Ryan Santoso in Pittsburgh trying to kick that game-winning field goal. That didn't work out. Lions couldn't stop Minnesota at the end of the game, and the Vikings, Greg Joseph kicked a 54-yarder. Lions couldn't stop the Ravens at the end of the game, and Justin Tucker kicked a 68-yarder, or whatever it was. It was ridiculous. Was it 69 yards? Whatever it was sick. And it hit the crossbar and bounced over. You would figure this year, in games decided by 7 points or less, 8 games, the Lions played close games, 1-score games, 7 points or less. They only won 2. All right, now number 1 on this, the Lions need to figure out what their kicking situation is. Is Austin Seibert their kicker, or is Riley Patterson their kicker? Patterson looked good at the end of the year, and there will be a kicking competition during training camp and the preseason. Last year, if you recall, the Lions botched their kicking situation. They went through like 8 kickers. It was ridiculous. Couldn't decide on one. Couldn't find one. Seibert seemed okay. Then he got hurt. Patterson, the rookie from TCU, did okay. Now there will be a competition in camp. The Lions' long snapper, punter, and kicking position is the lowest paid trio of any in the league right now. That was brought up, I believe, on the Lions Wire by Jeff Risdon. Lions need to get their kicking situation intact if they want to win some of those close games. I think it'll be better than 2-5-1. How about this number? In games decided by 3 points or less, the Lions went 1-4-1. This is not a football team last year, a 3-win team that got blown out much. They didn't. They won 1 of 6 games decided by 3 points or less. That has to turn around. It can't get much lower than 1-4-1. 1 win in 6 games in games decided by 3 points or less. That means a Greg Joseph field goal could have gone wide right in Minnesota from 54 yards. That means the Tucker kick maybe bounces off the upright and goes out instead of through. All right. That means, and I know it was the end of the game when Goff hit St. Brown with the game winner and all that against, was it Minnesota? That also could have gone differently. It was 4th down. I get that. All right. And the Lions won that game. But some of these close games, this team is so due, and they were so bad on 3rd downs last year as a defense. They're so due to step in front of a pass and grab a game-winning interception or getting a stop on a 3rd down and forcing a field goal, then coming down, and the Lions getting a chance to kick their own field goal. So 1-4-1 in games decided by 3 points or less has to improve this year. Not saying they're going to win them all. Not saying it's going to be 5-1-1 or 4-1-1. But you have to figure some of that luck, Lions luck, which is usually the other way, will turn this season. All right? All right. As far as some individual numbers, let's start with this. And this is a stat that I'm going to give you that I know is going to go nothing but up. And that is not because I love this player or think this player is that great. But Jared Goff, okay, had the lowest average depth at quarterback of targets of any quarterback in the league this year. He averaged per target, per throw, where he was looking to throw the football, 6.8 yards per target. The lowest average depth in the NFL, meaning that this offense was built in such a way that Anthony Lynn, previous offensive coordinator, Dan Campbell, and even Ben Johnson to an extent, did not allow Jared Goff to ever air it out. Average depth of target, only 6.8 yards, below 7 yards a throw. That is pathetic. Now, this year, you've added Jamison Williams, who knows when he'll be ready, but he's a deep threat. DJ Chark, deep threat. Josh Reynolds you will have for the entire season. And Quintez Cephas, while he's not real speedy, can get downfield. And remember, he missed a majority of last season. Jared Goff will not be dead last again in average depth per target this season. Will he be near the top? No, I don't think so. I still think this offense is going to be ground and pound and focus on the run, utilize the tight end and TJ Hawkinson. But lowest average depth of just 6.8 yards per target is pathetic. And with some of the younger quarterbacks in the league now, some rookies that are going to play this year, some second-year guys, I think that number will come up. One more stat for you on an individual player. This one I'm not so sure about and where this is going to end up. We'll do that next. First, I want to tell you about Rock Auto. Locked On Lions brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local auto parts store, chain store, to stock all the parts you need. Why endure long lines talking to people behind the counter? Don't do that. Choosing the only brand that a warehouse might carry? You want to go to rockauto.com. Go to and order online and get it shipped right to your door. Save time, save money when you use Rock Auto. Why choose to spend 30%, 50%, even 100% more for the same parts from a chain dealership? Don't do it. Go to rockauto.com. A family business serving do-it-yourselfers for 20 years. All right, the thing you need: brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, even new carpet. Go there, go to their website, rockauto.com. It's easy to navigate and discover what you need and order. Head to rockauto.com right now. See all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need from rockauto.com. All right, one more number to have you chew on, or some numbers for an individual player. We mentioned Jared Goff, but last season, Amon-Ra St. Brown, in his first 11 games as a Lion, caught 39 passes. He was a rookie, remember, for 352 yards and no touchdowns. All right, we know that's not going to happen. His numbers in the first 11 games this year are going to be much higher because the Lions discovered something at the end. Let me tell you. The last 6 games, with Dan Campbell calling the plays, with Anthony Lynn basically sitting on his hands, Amon-Ra St. Brown caught 51 passes for 560 yards and 5 touchdowns. First 11 games, 39 for 352, never scored. Last 6 games, half of his start to the season, he caught 51 balls, 560 yards, nearly got to 1,000, and 5 touchdowns. First and foremost, that stretch of the first 11 games will not happen this season. You know Amon-Ra St. Brown is primed and ready. He's a second-year guy that I know defenses now will take a look at, but he plays with so much confidence. He's a terrific route runner. And now, with a healthy Hawkinson, with a healthy Swift out of the backfield, hopefully, knock on wood, Chark, J-Mo, Reynolds, the Lions' offense is going to be better. Jared Goff, healthy. Offensive line, intact. Amon-Ra St. Brown should really start the season so much faster. Now, in his last 6 games, well, his second half of this season, be 51 for 560 and 5 touchdowns. That's tough to replicate. And also, he's not going to be the only weapon on this team. Like I said, they went out and gave DJ Chark double-digit $1 million to stretch the field a little bit. It got to the point last season at the end where Goff only had 1 target. Yeah, Josh Reynolds was pretty decent, but, the Tom Kennedys of the world, the Brock Wrights, this team was really lacking at wide receiver. If they can get Jamison Williams healthy and back and ready to play maybe October 1st, Chark, Hawkinson healthy, this offense is going to be much improved. But I don't know if St. Brown is going to be putting up in his last 6 games, averaging nearly 10 catches a game, or 9 catches a game, and 100 yards a game. Remarkable stats in the second half, and kudos to him and a shout out because he carried this offense. And it didn't matter if he was playing outside, X or Z, in the slot, he was tremendous. But first 11 games, no touchdowns. That's not going to happen this year. He will find a way. He was finding a way to get open with not much around him a year ago. Khalif Raymond, others. But that's going to be a tough 6 games at the end of the year to replicate this year. Catching 51 passes in his last 6 games with 5 touchdowns. But I'm excited to see where this goes with Amon-Ra St. Brown. And by the way, it's been leaked already. HBO's Hard Knocks, I guess, went to Amon-Ra's home recently, talked to his brother, his parents, and we'll have a little special feature on him during the Hard Knocks show coming up in August. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day right here on Locked On Lions and watching us here on YouTube, special Monday edition on July 4th. Stay safe, everybody, and we will talk to you again tomorrow right here on the Locked On Podcast Network.